Here are 10.5 things I've learned are a complete waste of money. Daily snacking spots. I got into a routine of stopping at a convenience store and grabbing a drink on my way to and from work, and this is a complete waste of money for two reasons. Firstly, we form a habit of going into places designed to encourage impulse purchases. The cakes at the cafe counter and candy at the convenience stores are carefully researched and placed where you're most likely to buy based on human psychology. So we all get caught eventually. Just last year, we found out that impulse purchases at just the checkout aisle was $6.5 billion in 2023. And while the article for 2024 isn't out yet, or I haven't found it, it's for sure in the billions. And secondly, $5 a day adds up to over $1,800 a year, which is nothing to scoff at. I bought a thermos and started preparing my own snacks and drinks before I left home or the office, and I was able to save an easy $1,800 of my take-home pay each year. Not maxing out your employer pension contributions. Have you ever heard the phrase "after freeness is the male reproductive organ"? If you know what I mean. It means that nothing in life is genuinely free, except for employer pension contributions. It's genuinely free money, and failing to have your employer max out their side of contributions is the same as turning down a raise. The problem is most people make the minimum contribution to have more take-home pay, but doing this costs thousands a year in free money your employer would contribute to your retirement and the tax benefits that these accounts get. Let's say we're only contributing 2 out of the 5%. We can match with our employer and taking home the rest. That extra 3% is taxed with the rest of our take-home pay, and our employer is only contributing 2% to match what we contributed. But if instead you contributed that extra 3% and didn't take it home, that wouldn't be taxed because pension contributions get a tax break. So it's literally more money than you'd take home. Your employer would also match your 3% at this higher pre-tax amount, so you end up with much more money into your pension by doing no extra work, which is the dream. Because I don't have a typical working agreement, I have to contribute to my own pension. But you can help me contribute more to it by hitting the like button down below. It's right there, it doesn't cost a thing. Thank you. High interest debt. High interest debt is anything over 8%, and one of those things that we know we're being screwed by, but the people who are forced to use it don't know how badly they're being screwed. Things like high interest vehicle financing, payday loans, and credit cards all fall into this category. And I know how badly you can get screwed because when I got my first credit card, the contract said that I'd pay 20% interest on anything that wasn't completely paid off. And as these things go, I ended up in a situation where I couldn't pay the money off and started making the minimum payments, but that debt compounding at 20% meant that my minimum payments were mostly just paying off interest I owed and not reducing the actual money I borrowed. Cars work differently since the debt doesn't compound, but you end up both paying more over time and losing more value as the car's value depreciates, which isn't compounding your interest, but it is compounding your loss. My rule for high interest debt is very simple. Avoid it at all costs. And if it's a credit card, pay it off completely in the same month. Number 4, not caring for your thing. Did you think in the last couple of years that the quality of things has just gotten worse and worse? Well, it's not just in your head. The cost of materials have increased and companies are using cheaper materials to keep their prices low. So a high quality sneaker 7 years ago would cost about $70, and that same sneaker would cost between $70 to $90 now. The difference is that the quality of materials used to make the sneaker is much lower, and therefore it damages much more quickly. And because it damages much more quickly, every time you replace an item at the same cost or similar cost, you're getting less use out of it. I've experienced the downside of this personally with my sneakers. I bought this pair that I used very regularly 9 years ago for about $60, and I went running, gym, and generally beat the crap out of this shoe, and it's still in pretty good condition. But these two I bought in the last 2 years to walk around in and put under no other stress. So no running, no gym, and they costed a little bit more. But I already have to replace them because they have torn fabric, and I'm angry about that. Add to that tech companies swapping metals for plastics, and caring for our things the way old men care about their cars is the only way for regular people to avoid constantly replacing things. If you've ever met an old man with a well-maintained vintage vehicle, you'll know he's named it and he could tell you where every single scratch came from, and they end up keeping those cars running for 40 plus years. And while I don't intend to ever put that level of care into a shoe, I'll be doing much more basic maintenance to expand their lifespan and avoid throwing money into the endless pit. Unintentional spending. Did you know that roughly 66% of all supermarket purchases are unplanned? And And it's not accidental. Supermarkets like Costco intentionally have large shopping carts so you feel compelled to fill them up. They have the scent of food in the air so you get hungry, and they place the most desirable items at the back of the store so you're forced to go through the entire store. Maybe grab a few things on the way there, and suddenly you went to get 3 items but you left with 9. They also know that 80% of impulse purchases happen in the last 20% of time you spend in the store, and just by keeping you there longer, you're more likely to buy. I've been burnt so many times by this that now I always carry a list when I go shopping for anything. I make my list on my phone before I leave my house, and if I'm hungry, I'll eat before I leave. The list keeps me focused on what I went there for and prevents purposeless browsing, which is the fastest way to end up making impulse purchases. Number 6, designer clothing. I'm not opposed to people looking good, but buying expensive designer clothing is a complete waste of money. Trading $700 for a hat is trading money that could take care of bills, help secure your future, or go into income-generating activities. And other than temporarily borrowing the status from the name brand, because you don't have the status when you're not wearing the name brand, it doesn't do anything for you that another hat can't. If you're a millionaire or a really high net worth person, then this doesn't apply to you. But the rest of us who are in the process of accumulating wealth, constantly buying designer clothing is making a large, sneaky trade. We're trading the potential those dollars have to make us stable now and wealthy in the future to look like a rich person now while we're not rich. Number 7, buying the latest phone. In the last few years, phone upgrades have been mostly marginal. Every phone can basically do the same thing at this point. So to me, spending money to buy the latest model or upgrade before my phone is completely dead is a complete waste of money, considering the difference is hundreds of dollars for practically no gain. The average phone user like myself only care about 3 things. Is the camera good? Can I use the communication apps? And can I pay with a digital wallet? And even with the camera, it's getting really difficult to tell the difference now. This guy from Tom's Guide took 200 photos to find the difference between the iPhone 14 and iPhone 16, which are 2 years apart. And to me, honestly, it doesn't look that different, but it's a huge difference in your wallet. My 4-year-old phone recently fell and broke, and I bought this second-hand Google Pixel that's 2 years old for like $250 because 1, I couldn't find my 4-year-old phone, otherwise I would have just bought that again. And 2, it does everything that I need. And on a cost to performance ratio, it's so much more reasonable to have a practically new used device or a device that's a couple years older than it is to buy a brand new model. Number 8, unused subscriptions and memberships. A recent survey by Self Financial found that the average value of unused paid subscriptions is $32.48 per household, excluding gym memberships and other non-digital memberships that can add to that number. $32 doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're signed up for Amazon Prime, just like I was, you probably at least once last year paid for nothing, like I did. Or if not, I also paid for nothing with Audible and a language learning app. Because if I don't actively seek to cancel them when I see the charge, I tend to forget, just like everyone else. What's interesting though is that many companies gain significantly from members forgetting to cancel, with some companies having as much as a 200% increase in sales due to people forgetting. Companies aren't evil for this, but it means that if you forget to cancel, no one will remind you because it's not in their interest. So I make a note of the billing date when I sign up for any subscription, and on the last day of each month, I do a detailed budget to see where my money is going and cancel the things I haven't used to prevent myself from being charged again. Number 9, trying to buy respect. In the book The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel talked about the man in the car paradox and how it's a complete waste of money. This is when people buy nice things to signal to other people that they should be liked, respected, and admired, like a man buying a nice car. But the problem is that no one cares about the man in the car. They're thinking about how they would be admired, respected, and liked if they had that same car. Basically, no one cares about you having the nice thing as much as you do, and that's the waste. Then you're stuck with expensive payments for years, literally draining your wealth for people who don't care, especially the people we tend to respect and admire. Instead, it's better to live a life for yourself and not use material possessions to try and get people to like you. And if you'd like to learn how to live a higher quality of life without compromising your savings, check out the free Minimalist Money Mindset mini course in the description. Number 10, addictive behaviors. For years, I'd go out every Saturday night with my friends for drinks. And while the memories are good, minus the hangovers, Bar prices and addictions are a complete waste of money. I'm not saying don't go out, but the cost of a night out is much more than you think. For context, if you go out once a week and have 3 $10 drinks, it costs you over $1,500 a year, excluding holidays where we know people tend to drink more. When you add in the cost of other addictive behaviors like cigarettes, gambling, food, and transport, you're blowing thousands of dollars a year. Finding cheaper ways to have these experiences, like hanging out at a friend's house or limiting how often you go out, can be good, but finding other healthier ways to meet new people and connect with others, like board game nights, joining a club, taco nights, is probably best from a financial standpoint, both in the short and long term. I've replaced alcohol at bars with club sodas, and as often as I can, I replace bar meetups with night cafes and restaurants, or more commonly, I just stay home. And number 10.5, fast shopping, not investing. One money wasting trap I fell into when I was younger was looking at shopping as a purchase and not an investment. Even though I always wanted to buy the best thing I could afford, that didn't mean the best thing I could afford would be something that could last me for 8 to 10 years. And this led to less strategic shopping, which forced me to constantly have to upgrade things every couple of years. Now I try to look at things I'm buying as an investment over an 8 to 10 year period. This helps me use a critical eye to find things that are great value for the money I'm spending. I do it with things that I don't expect to be outdated in 10 years' time, like keeping myself warm or using a computer screen. Watch this video next.